Welcome back to Scoundrels, Inc., another Star Wars podcast, one of the many you're probably already listening to. I'm Frank. We have Sean and Brandon on the show. No Kevin today. He sends his... what does he send?
He just said,
sorrows?
"Remember." He just said, "Remember, I won't be there today."
That's
all he said.
That's what he said in the group chat. Just With that said,
I don't know what you're getting at. All he said was, "I won't be here."
I'm pretty sure
He's like, "Guys,
he actually walked by my room and said, "Viceroy, your occupation here has ended." And then he shot at me.
Damn. He shot it, and then his foot slipped out from underneath him while he went to go lock the door. Yeah. Well, anyways, hit like on this video if you like what we do and what we're gonna say. Like you don't know what we're gonna say this episode, but just have faith that you'll like it. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube, our podcast feed. That would be most appreciative. But
find us on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, and
Flickr.
That's it.
Tumblr.
Flickr. Yeah, we're gonna start up a Flickr account.
Tumblr.
But today we're gonna get into
True Social.
True. Oh no.
That is not
No,
Wizard
I mean,
Periscope.
It's so
are we
not
on?
Wizard.
Frank? Are we on Periscope?
On Periscope. Wow.
We're on Vine.
We're on Vine though. We're on Vine.
We should get.
we're
we should
on
get
Vine.
on
Look at that,
Periscope.
Brandon knows. We're going to be talking about the Kathleen Kennedy interview that was on the Dagobah Dispatch a couple weeks ago. That I don't know. It caught my eye. There was a particular quote tweet about something that was said in the interview. We'll get into that. Also, the release date for Ahsoka. What's going on with that? How come we don't have a release date? What could it be? And then we'll dabble a little bit with our thoughts on Solo: A Star Wars Story. And then, of course, we'll get into the Q&A section of the episode where we take questions from our Discord channel. So if you want to get in our Discord channel and send us some questions, links are all in the description for the Discord as well as the YouTube channel, all our socials and all that. So if you hit subscribe and follow us over there, it'd be greatly appreciated. But let's get into it.
We start getting into it.
Yeah. Could you imagine if Jar Jar Binks was like the Michael Buffer of boxing matches in Star Wars world?
You so ready to rumble bombard? I'm not really trying. I'm tired today.
God. Yeah, we're all tired. I think we're all.
Yeah, I can feel
today.
it. But you know what? And you know what? Honestly, I hate to. I mean, not to hate, but like Ray Stevenson. I think we all saw the news on Twitter. I was shocked. That's something you don't expect to see with someone so young. He was 58 years old. He was voiced Gar Saxon. Obviously, going to be in the Ahsoka series as Balin Skull, I think is his name
For now.
And so it was really sad to watch that or see that on Twitter and but I did take some solace in reading everyone's words about the man and his work and what they meant to him. So I don't know, Sean. Yeah, when you saw the news,
I don't know much. I mean, I've seen him in other things, but we have no idea what he's going to be like in Star Wars. But I'll tell you what, I was immediately drawn to the character. I had said like, oh, I'm going to a convention in August, and I was saying like, oh, I'm going to try to make that costume for August. That's a dope costume. I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. But like, I'm excited to see what he does in Star Wars. It's horrible. He's had some great roles. He's amazing in Rome. My brain is not letting me. He's Falstad in
Correct.
Marvel.
Schmodown.
He's one of the Warriors 3. Everything I've seen him in, I've liked him in. But I mean, it's terrible that he died so young, and we don't know how he died. I don't think
he caught something like an illness.
Okay.
He was. I think he.
Yeah,
was
I know he was
something. Over
I know
in
he was
Italy.
hospitalized.
Yeah, and it just. I don't know. It just turned really quick, I guess. And Brandon, what are your thoughts on?
Yeah, it's really sad and obviously like super unexpected, and like he's very young, and he was a terrific actor. I was gonna say, well, he is great in Punisher Warzone, for sure. He did that. In my opinion, he did the whole like flare and like the dark thing before the Batman did, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I was really looking forward to seeing him in Ahsoka. And well, I still am looking forward to seeing him in Ahsoka. And his
Yeah.
character seems really cool and really mysterious. Yeah, so I'm definitely, I think, just gonna be like watching his performance a little closer now, like just trying to like savor it, knowing this is gonna be
Yeah.
probably the last time or one of the last times we're gonna see him in something new. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he was also Gar Saxon in Rebels, voice Gar Saxon in Rebels, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to his character portrayal in Ahsoka. And yeah, you're right. I think I'm definitely going to cherish that performance a little more. Now that he's not with us anymore. It's really sad. 58 years old, but he will forever live on in the movies and TV shows, and definitely in Star Wars, which is a great thing because I think with characters, and we'll see what happens with Balin, but they can always have plenty more stories, and well, we'll see what happens with Ahsoka, but just really thankful for the stuff that he's given us because he's really seemed like a great guy to work with, and just I key on that. Rosario Dawson tweeted out a really heartfelt message about him, and just that he lived, and it's sad that he's no longer with us.
Yeah.
But switching gears now, we're going to talk about this Kathleen Kennedy interview that came out, that was on the Dagobah Dispatch podcast like a couple weeks ago. I think it came out on May 11th. But then there was a headline from it that got, quote, retweeted by a certain Star Wars theorist. And really...
yeah, I wonder who that is.
Is that the food theory guy?
And, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah. A game theory.
Yeah, what really irked me about this is the perpetuation of a false narrative being created with someone who has such a wide reach, and this is what the theorist quote retweeted.
Well, so here's the initial headline was, does the galaxy need the Jedi anymore? Do they need them back? Which Kathleen does say that basically the Rey film is going to question that, right?
Right.
Which, before we get into the quote tweet bullshit, like, I think that's an awesome question to frame a movie around. I'm not the biggest Kathleen Kennedy lover or hater, right? She's a fucking executive. Who the fuck cares, right? She makes billions of dollars to run this company. She's not necessarily making creative decisions. All she is a figurehead and a mouthpiece. I assume. I don't know, right? Maybe she is making creative decisions. But
I'm sure she has
I think
input and direction.
I think she has input
overall.
But I think
she's not writing scripts.
Right, and she has input. She has input with along with a lot of other creative people, right?
Right.
So, like, that's the tweet, right? Is Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy says upcoming Rey film will question, does the galaxy need the Jedi anymore? Do they want them back?
I think that's a great question as well.
That's a great question.
PLD actually a couple weeks ago in the Discord Q&A portion of the show asked a similar question about that. What do you think is going to happen with Rey and the Jedi and all that? And I actually even kind of said it's going to be interesting to be in this time period, 15 years post Rise of Skywalker, and what does the galaxy even know about the Jedi at this point? How do they feel when they learn about the Jedi? If they're learning, and then who are they learning it from? What kind of information does the galaxy hold now for just the general quote unquote population of the galaxy?
Yeah.
And what is Rey's mission in terms of this is she out there campaigning for this is why you need the Jedi? It's gonna be very interesting, the landscape when this movie takes place, and I think it's a logical place to go, given the history of the Jedi and the Sith. Right, there's a lot of positive and there's some negative as well with both of these groups, or one of these groups being present in the galaxy that has some power or control. And how will people feel in a galaxy that's been through how many different governments up to this point? In the past 100 years or so, they've been through like 3 or 4 different governments, right? So what's the galaxy going to feel like? And I think it's a great area for this movie to tackle. Brandon, what are your thoughts on just what Kathleen said about what this movie's going to
Yeah, I think it's the perfect question to be asked, right? I mean, you watch the movies, we see the Jedi fail in the prequels. We see that Luke fails in between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. It is a pretty like important, I think, topic in the Star Wars universe. And it's I kind of just like had this analogy pop into my head. How like some people say like, oh, um, nothing will make you a bigger atheist than actually like reading the Bible. I feel like it's the same thing. It's like nothing will make you question the Jedi like more than actually watching Star Wars. If you, if you really pay attention, it's like, and Luke says as much in The Last Jedi, and I know that is its own hotly debated film. So the themes in that and the ideas shared in that film may not be universally enjoyed, but I think they are like important questions to be being asked. And just because the question is being asked, it doesn't mean that Kathleen Kennedy or Lucasfilm is saying that nobody needs the Jedi, they're not important. No, they're going to ask the question, and the answer is going to be, of course we need the Jedi. Like, that's, of course that's going to be the answer. The movie is not going to end with the Jedi like being dead and someone going like, glad they're gone. Like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
But hold on. But the question is deeper than that, right? The question isn't whether or not the Jedi should exist. The question is whether or not the galaxy needs them, right? So, and I think even more so.
Well, it depends. It could be framed both ways, but in the movie, we don't know.
It can. But the way I'm reading the question is, and we don't know what the government's going to look like in this time frame, but let's just say the New Republic.
Hopefully,
right?
they're better than the
does the New Republic need the Jedi? Because ultimately, the old Republic, the Republic, was reliant on the Jedi for many things, and I think the question is: does whatever this new form of governance need the Jedi? Do they need that sort of peacekeeping, arbitrating force? Do they need these paramilitary warriors to serve in the line of whatever? Right? I mean, Luke was instrumental in the rebellion, and Rey and Finn are both instrumental in the New Republic and in the Resistance, and so is Leia, who ultimately is a Jedi, right? So I think the question is more nuanced than does the universe, the Star Wars universe need Jedi, or does the galaxy need Jedi? I don't think that's the question being asked. I think the question being asked is whether or not the people of the galaxy need the Jedi anymore, right? Or should they be, or should they and can they be self-sufficient? And I think, moving to this tweet, I know a large group, and the tweet says, I know a large group of people who do need the Jedi and want them back. Oh yeah, the entire fandom, whatever, blah, 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 blah. We probably shouldn't read the tweet verbatim. And then hashtag no source material. I got two real big thoughts on this, all right?
You do.
This guy aggravates me because he's gone after people that we consider close friends before and stuff like that, right? Where was I? Oh, okay. So I think he's missing the point of the question. The point isn't whether or not Star Wars needs Jedi. Yes, Star Wars needs Jedi. We all agree.
Or the fans want Jedi.
And you know what? I'm sorry, but the fans need Jedi too, right? I agree with that. I do agree with that part of the statement. The fans do need Jedi. But guess what? We've had fucking Jedi all throughout this whole Disney stewardship of Star Wars has been full of Jedi. Non-stop fucking Jedi.
The High Republic, my guy.
The High Republic. The High Republic. The ObiWan show. The Acolyte. Fucking Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order. All of the comics are at least half the comics focus on Jedi. All of the movies have had Jedi. They've in fact explored the nuances of what the Jedi Order is, and what the Jedi faith and what the Jedi teachings and practices are. I don't understand. Like, and the no source material thing, I'm sorry, but I don't want Star Wars to pull from source material. If I want that stuff, I'll go read it. You know what I just fucking finished reading? The X-Wing trilogy. Great fucking Star Wars. You know what I don't need to see a repeat of? That. You know what else I just finished reading? The Thrawn trilogy. Heir to the Empire. All that. I don't need more of that. I've read it 4 times. Yeah, I want to see stuff pulled from that and reference and homages to that, but I don't need it again. Just like I've been playing Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. No spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom, but both Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild do a great job of pulling from the greater Zelda lore and universe. I want that. I want the homages and the references. I don't want to read or see or experience those stories again unless it's those stories, right? And then I'll go to those stories. I don't need more of this.
Yeah. You know what it upsets me about the quote tweet here is that Star Wars Theory is framing it as Kathleen Kennedy wants to get rid of the Jedi.
Now you called him by name.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think it was fun to play coy, but what's the point at this point? It frames it as Kathleen Kennedy wants to get rid of the Jedi. We don't need the Jedi, and that's what he's saying here in his tweet. The fans need the Jedi. It's the whole reason why this company Lucasfilm even exists today, because of the Jedi, the concept, and all that. Blah blah blah. And it's just, I don't appreciate someone using their platform like that to misconstrue literally
it's
words in the film. It's not this person. He's targeting a person, and instead of engaging with the question within the Star Wars universe, and it's so disingenuous, the way I perceive it, that it really upset. This one really upset me because he literally quote tweets a quote it's about the film. It's not about someone's personal stance on whether or not the Jedi belong in Star Wars, i.e. Kathleen Kennedy. So it has nothing to do with that. It's about what we were just talking about. Does the galaxy want them back? Do they need them? How do they operate in this world? And I would rather engage with that part of the question in an honest way, as opposed to riling up because you have some sort of vendetta against Kathleen Kennedy because you disagree with some of the things, or a lot of the things in this case, that she does. And fine, you can have that perspective on the job Kathleen Kennedy has done, but don't twist around a quote to fit your narrative of Kathleen Kennedy's got to go. We know you feel that way. Don't make up stuff from things that aren't fitting, that don't fit your narrative. Don't bring stuff into that isn't true. So, because you have plenty of other stuff you can pull to. It's just when you go after the quote literally says, the upcoming Rey film will question, does the galaxy need the Jedi anymore? Do they want them back? It's not saying, does Kathleen Kennedy think Star Wars? It's not. And he frames it that way, and that's what really irked me about that. And I also wanted to talk about the question of the film, but anyways.
Look, I'm mostly blowing up as a joke here, right? Like, I wouldn't say that any of this really irks me. It doesn't shock me. What irks me is that there's a segment of the fan base that I feel like is purposely trying to find flaws in this stuff when there are legitimate flaws in this stuff, right? I mean, we haven't talked much on the show about ObiWan or Boba Fett, right?
Right.
But both of those shows have massive flaws, right? I think this season of Mandalorian had massive flaws. I'd rather go after the flaws in what is and not look for these perceived flaws, right? Because ultimately, I do think that it's coming. I think that for a lot of these fans, it does come from a place of frustration, right? It's not the Star Wars they thought they wanted, right? Whatever value you give in that thought or that feeling, fine, whatever. I give it some value, right? I know for me, I have a hard time with a lot of stuff in current Disney and Star Wars and whatever. But I think as a whole, I'm getting more Star Wars, and I'm getting more good Star Wars than bad Star Wars. I personally, for me, right? It works for me.
Sure.
And I think that there's certain people on the internet who target these disenfranchised and Star Wars diaspora, if we will, right? Like these sort of lost Star Wars fans that don't love what's coming out and want to see what they grew up with in Legends and in the expanded universe, right? But we're past that, right? And I'd rather us be past that. I'd rather tell new stories. I've read the Legends stuff and the expanded universe stuff. And you know what? By all means, if someone's got recommendations for Legends stuff and expanded universe stuff they love, send it my way because I want to read it, right? I love that. That stuff, is what I thrived on as a Star Wars fan for a long time. And I feel bad for these people in these positions that are hating on Star Wars. I feel bad. a friend of mine said this weekend. Life's too short to have that much hate for anything, right?
Totally.
It totally is. Life's too short to be that angry about anything, right? And this is a group of people that live their life being angry about space wizards.
Yeah, Brandon.
Right.
What is your take on the whole this whole thing?
I mean, I know a thing or two about anger and how it leads to hate. Now, hate leads to suffering. That's the line we talked about, where I think it's better with the puppet. But anyways, yeah, no, I liked ObiWan Kenobi. I don't know what your beef is there, Sean. Yeah, I think we basically said all that to be said. I think Sean kind of summarized it very well, and
Sorry.
And Frank, I think you made a really good point about how the question is being reframed, and yeah, I don't have time for all that negative nonsense.
No.
And we normally don't cover this type of stuff like this, but this one just stuck out to me.
Well, I think the problem is, I think the problem is we were kind of covering the interview and then looking into it like that was kind of what came up. I didn't get much out of that fucking interview, right? Aside from the thing that stuck with me is that Harrison's done after Indy 5, right? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Which is not a Star Wars topic. I mean, I guess it kind of is, right?
Lucas,
I think if he's done with, but I also think if he's done with, which we already knew he was done with Han Solo, right?
Han Solo.
But I think if he's done with Indy, it means he's done with Lucasfilm, period. Right?
Yeah.
Which is good for him. He's fucking, what is he, 80? 78?
Yeah, man, like...
Right? He should come back as a ghost again.
He's got to be older than our current president, or last two presidents, right?
Probably.
He's got to be older than all the presidents ever.
All the presidents, men, yes. All right, let's move on to Ahsoka and the release date, because there have been some like dates thrown out there, and even Kevin was like, "Hey, did you guys see the release date?" I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "None of this is concrete."
No,
and the only thing we know is that it's coming out in August. And this article that I found on Inverse.com actually does a really good job of breaking down what's going to be on Disney Plus's slate coming in the fall, and it talks about how we have Invasion and Loki, basically bookending Ahsoka, because Secret Invasion begins on June 21st and ends July 26th, and Loki Season 2 begins on October 6th. So if Ahsoka airs on Wednesdays like all their Star Wars series have, it could start as early as August 2nd and end as late as October 4th without bumping into a Marvel show, which makes sense, right? I don't think Disney Plus
that gives
a
couple week buffer, right?
Right, and so they say
at least 2-3.
So then they go on to say, actually, August 9th would be like the ideal date to have a week buffer between all three of these shows when they start and end. So they're thinking August 9th seems the most realistic. I was always under the impression when they say, "Oh, it'll release in August, it'll release in July, it'll release in May," I go, "Oh, that means the end. It's going to release in 2023 December. It's the end of the month, like Mandalorian. It's coming out end of 2023, right, or 2022."
The only exception to that was, the only exception to that was that I can think of was Mandalorian Season 1 did release mid-December for Season 1.
Mm-hmm. So, or was
unless it might have been end of November, actually. I don't know.
Yeah, but I do find it curious that they have start dates for Secret Invasion and Loki, but they haven't nailed down the start date for Ahsoka, which has to be in August. I mean, there's only like 4 dates you can pick, and I'm very curious why they have not publicly committed to an air date, a start date for the show. I don't understand.
I don't know
if anybody else has thoughts on that. I
don't think they've committed to a start date, because I don't think they usually commit to a start date this far out for Star Wars stuff.
I mean, it's 2 months. I mean,
yeah, maybe you're right. Point. I don't know. It doesn't shock me or anything. I feel nothing. I feel nothing for
means
this.
Nothing to me.
But however, I will say I did hear. I can't go into it, but NDAs, whatever. I heard. I tried to bring this up before the show, and I forgot. I heard some chatter about, you know, that's not the date. The August 31st that we're hearing is not the date. That I know for sure, but I already knew that. I already knew that, hey, that's not going to be the date. There's no fucking way August 31st is the date. The week before, maybe. That feels right to me. I wouldn't be surprised if Ahsoka overlaps a week with one of the shows or the other, right?
I can see it, yeah.
You know, like...
This article points out that August 15th is the 15th anniversary of the Clone Wars animated movie, which is the introduction of Ahsoka. So if it came out on August 9th, it would play into an anniversary date of Star Wars, which, I gotta say, kind of makes sense to me.
Hey, you know what else? We want to talk about bad things in Star Wars. How about the fucking Clone Wars movie, that piece of shit? Right?
You didn't like what's the was it Squishy? Squiggy, whatever.
Stinky?
Stinky.
No.
Is it Stinky?
No, you didn't like Stinky?
No.
I think it's Stinky.
Not for me.
I should know this.
Squirmy?
Not for me. You know how many times I've watched that fucking movie for the Schmodown?
So he would know. Is it Stinky?
No.
Emotional damage.
One of the advantages of doing this stream yard, Sean has a soundboard on the other end. Okay, let's move on to just some. We had a 5-year anniversary for Solo: A Star Wars Story. Make Solo 2 happen.
Happy anniversary!
Oh,
right.
Yeah, the Resistance broadcast. Famously, I would say famously, how spearheads the Make
trending.
Solo 2 happen campaign.
Over 10,000.
It was. They got 10,000. I thought. Yeah, over 10,000.
Well, even Master
Well, you
Yoda's
also can't really trust. You also can't really trust Twitter trending anymore because it's tailored towards you.
That's true.
Right. A lot of the trending you're going to see is tailored. Like, there is a way to look at just the overall trending for Twitter, but a lot of it is tailored towards you. So all of us are going to get Star Wars tailored.
Yeah,
threads.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, it's great to see it trending. I love Solo. That's another movie that's got some serious fucking flaws in it, but I do love Solo. I would have loved to have seen the original version of Solo, and I don't mean hold on. I don't
Lord
mean
and
the
Miller
Lord
okay.
No, with the alternate villain, and I forget who was supposed to play the other villain, but there was supposed to be a different villain.
Yes. Well,
yeah.
I thought he was the same character, just a
feel
different actor. I thought.
No, I think they kept the name, but the actor and the character design was different because it was originally going to be a more alien-looking character.
Yeah.
I just saw this somewhere too. I can't remember. Yeah.
Also, question regarding Dryden Voss, real quick. Was Dagan Gera the same race as Dryden?
Who?
Oh, I don't know. That's an interesting question, actually.
The villain for Jedi Survivor.
Is that canon?
One of the villains of Jedi Survivor.
My hair's getting worse.
Yeah, that's an interesting because you're talking about because he had the red streaks right on his face. Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. But I will say about Solo, I did rewatch it recently, a few weeks ago, and it's an enjoyable Star Wars story. I am someone that it's gotten easier over time, over these past 5 years, to have. I think Alden Ehrenreich is good in this movie. I can't say he's great as a Han Solo just because Harrison Ford has such a stranglehold on that character. It's, for me personally, it's really, really tough, and so I don't want to be unfair to Alden Ehrenreich just because of my own hangups about it, because I do think he's a good actor and I think he is good in the role, but if I'm trying to be like, this is the Harrison Ford Han Solo, I can't look at him that way. I can't. I almost have to look at him as like an alternate universe Han Solo in a sense, like, honestly. And that's my own personal hiccup, but it doesn't impede my enjoyment of the movie because I like the stuff with Chewie and Beckett and the whole crew, and I like Kira, and that angle is really interesting to me. The Castle Run is an exquisite piece of Star Wars.
Not if you round down, it isn't.
No doubt about it. Right. Great stuff there. Brandon, what is your feelings on
I like Solo a lot. I think it definitely just overall suffered from coming out in May after The Last Jedi. They should have pushed it to
Well,
December
Infinity War.
for sure. Like I think it would have done better financially, and just overall fan reaction might have been better. But I remember the first time I watched it, I was like kind of like lukewarm on it, and
Yeah.
and the more I watched it, the more I fell in love with it. And I always thought it was like well written. I think anytime Lawrence Kasdan touches a Star Wars screenplay, it's going to be a banger, in my opinion.
Yeah. Except for that one line.
Yeah,
Solo line was pretty
the I could have done
That
without
one, yeah,
the.
it's like,
oh,
what do
who
you
are
do?
Who are you
Han?
people? I could have done without that.
bad. Solo.
You're alone.
He says it like Jim Carrey Grinch. Solo.
Solo.
But it also has
Oh, you're alone.
it also has great lines like, "That's not a thermal detonator. That's just a rock, and you're making a clicking sound with your mouth."
Yeah.
yeah.
I posted the link to the original Dryden concept art in the show notes. He's a lot more alien, a lot more cat-like almost, and it was supposed to be Michael K. Williams.
That's right.
Well, oh, that's right, Michael.
But
K.
he had
Williams,
a
that's-
schedule. He had a
yeah.
scheduling conflict that he couldn't make.
Yes,
So.
Michael K. Williams.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen that. I love the Dryden we got.
Oh,
Paul
totally.
Bettany did a great job. I kind of feel
he's
like
a
Paul
great
Bettany.
villain. Yeah.
I kind of feel like Paul Bettany is wasted on that movie in that, like, not that I don't love that movie. I just would have liked to have seen more Paul Bettany in Star Wars. I'd like to have seen him in a role he could reprise. He actually might not have been a bad Thrawn,
Dang. You know what?
right?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
like
so-
that
Yeah, he
it's going to
could've
be
pulled it
Lars
off.
Mikkelsen though.
Oh yeah, me too.
Oh,
Me
100%.
too, absolutely.
100%. But
I
think
prefer it being Lars Mikkelsen, but I do feel like
It's
Paul
nice
Bettany
to
has the
see
chops
like
to pull it off.
actors reprising their animated roles in live action. We're even seeing that in Star Trek this like past week. So Star Trek can do it.
I wouldn't have mind. I wouldn't have minded
have to
seeing
bleep
some
that, you know
more
that, Brandon.
actors. I wouldn't have minded seeing more actors
Mm-hmm.
reprising their role, like Tia Sakar. I think could have played Sabine.
Yeah, that was.
You know,
I bet that's a tough decision. I mean,
I don't think it
on
was.
Dave's part, and
I
How
don't think
old
it was.
is
you don't think
I
so?
think that-
Sabine supposed to be? I think like I think like she I think
She's
she
around the
looked.
same age as Ezra, maybe a little older than Ezra.
Tia, what's her last name again? Sakar.
Tia Sakar.
Tia Sakar. I think like she looks a lot like she looks very young. Like she looks really great.
She's not. Yeah, she's not that young, but she
yeah,
looks young.
but I
Yeah.
just don't know how old.
Because she was. I've
Sabine's
only seen her
supposed
in
to be.
The Good Place, and I thought she was great in The Good Place.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen that, so. But yeah, it would have been cool to have the voice match. But I think, going forward, I think we'll see. Do we want to get into these Discord questions, Sean?
Yeah, we certainly could. Tia Sakar, by the way, is 41 years old and certainly does not look
No.
it. Holy shit!
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Subtract at
Applause
least
all
10
around.
years from that.
Wow.
At least.
Yeah.
least.
Okay. So first question is from John Booze, friend of the show.
Future friend of the show.
No, he's a friend of the show. I was talking to him
Future, past,
yesterday.
and present.
Friend of the once and future friend of the show. Palpatine created a liability in training Vader and following the rule of two. Oh, yeah, no. Okay, this wasn't a question. Palpatine created a liability in training Vader and following the rule of two. Do you think Palpatine wins if he just did things solo?
Hans.
I'm going to raise issue with the question. I don't think Palpatine created any more of a liability than any other Sith Lord ever did.
There's
right?
always a
Like,
risk.
The
Yeah.
rule of two. The rule of two is meant to function the way it functions for a reason. Is it kind of dumb? Yeah, it's kind of dumb. I don't know. But like, I think no matter what, he couldn't have done it alone. I think he did need an enforcer.
Yeah,
I think
I
Vader's-
agree with that.
Yeah, and I don't know how much is like canon and how much is legends, but like the whole thing with like him purposely making his suit like not super comfortable to be mobile in, and stuff like that.
That's canon. There is some element of that.
So
in
like,
canon.
I'm like he kept him at an arm's length, you know what I'm saying? Like figuratively. He's like, I know you can't beat me, bro.
But the
And Vader knew he couldn't beat him. He's
the
like, I
interesting
must
part-
obey my master. And like Return of the Jedi, he's like, bro knew he couldn't beat Palpatine.
I don't think the battle between Vader and Luke, I feel like that's so separate from the actual galactic civil war that's going on that Palpatine would have lost that war anyways, because in terms of getting, like, they got the, like, Vader couldn't even stop them from getting the plans, and right, to begin with, right? So they got the plans and they destroyed the Death Star. Now you could, there's an interesting what if Luke Skywalker wasn't part of that trench run, do they still blow up the Death Star? Do they do it? I
don't know.
That's an interesting question.
Do some of them escape with the
But
plans, come back, fight another day? You know.
does it take someone with the Force to hit the reactor on the Death Star? I don't think so. They just needed.
Is
to
that
use their
what
computer.
Galen Erso
Yeah,
was
there was
thinking? He was like, "This, I built in a
No,
weakness,
there's
but
no
it's
way.
only exploitable by someone who could use the Force."
Right.
Yeah.
So I think even like the Vader, Luke, that stuff feels so separate from the Galactic Civil War that I still think Sidious would have lost. I mean, he lost with Vader. If you can't win with Vader, like, then you ain't gonna win without him. Like, in my estimation. So.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But Luke did
from,
inspire people who were critical to the success of the rebellion.
There's plenty of people that inspired the rebellion, you know. But you're right. He has a significant influence. Sure.
From Thomas H. How do you think? How big do you think will the sad? I'm going to rephrase
With the
this.
sad passing.
How do you think the sad passing of Ray Stevenson will impact a possible second season of the Filoni, second season of Ahsoka or the Filoni movie? I hope they find a satisfying solution, unless the character is dying in Ahsoka season 1.
You know, it's hard to say, obviously, without seeing the series. But given the nature of his character, I feel like that character is going to perish in the show. But if not, you know, sometimes characters just go
Fade
off
away.
Or they
and
become
never return,
Snoke.
you know. So
Yeah.
Or they become, what do you
Yeah.
Smet?
Brando?
Yeah, I mean, honest, I definitely zoned out for a second when you were reading that question. I was too embarrassed to ask you to read it again.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's fine. I think the character doesn't make it through season 1 anyways, so I don't think it matters. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, which will make it even more brutal to watch, you know, knowing.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
Ray Stevenson's nowhere here.
it's the character he's playing, right? Like, I think it just
Sure.
it
Maybe
is
he
what
dies
it is,
a
right?
hero.
Yeah.
Maybe he turns to
Um,
the light guy.
Maybe that would be beautiful.
Yeah, that's fair. From Janine The
Heard of her.
Bean, what job do you think you'd have or be good at in the Star Wars universe?
I don't want one of those desk jobs that like
Oh my
what
god.
like
no.
Siren, Kieran, what's his name?
Data entry.
Cyril.
Cyril.
I don't want
Cyril
one of his
Karn.
jobs.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think I'd probably have to be some sort of mechanic. You know,
Okay.
as much as I'd like to say, like, oh yeah, I'd be in the rebellion. No, fucking, I'd be a mechanic. Right? I'd fix it.
I'd like
And
to
not
think-
Depends.
like a good mechanic.
What's my
just like a,
upbringing?
you know,
Yeah,
What's
am I
your-
like the son of a senator?
your class-
or, or did
what's your real life? What's your real
or did
life
I grow
upbringing?
up, you know, like smuggling M somethings, whatever they're called on Corellia? I don't know.
boosting M68s?
M68s, that's it.
I definitely would get into
Or do you mean
riffraff.
or do you
Once-
mean AV or AV21?
I was thinking the M68s.
Okay.
Guys, I hate to say it, but I'd definitely be a scoundrel.
I'm like thinking
Yes.
maybe like
All right,
depending
Anyways, guys, that's the
if
show.
I grow up poor in the Star Wars universe, I'd probably be a scoundrel. But if I grew up
Yeah,
rich,
fair.
I'd probably be like a diplomat. Maybe I have like a nice antique store, you know. But I'm
You don't think you'd be a
You
scientist?
be a Luthen? You You want to be a
But
Lutheran?
I might be a scientist, but also depends on the era, right? Like I think it would be really exciting to be a scientist, like right when they were discovering like hyperspace travel and how to like do it through technology, and like kind of like reverse engineering what they see in the Purrgil and stuff like that.
You would be involved in the
That would be
sciences
a
in some
really
form
exciting time to
some
be a
form or
scientist
fashion.
in the Star Wars universe. But like during the Galactic Civil War, it's like you're either making massive super weapons or you're like doing really unethical experiments to figure out how to clone a force sensitive
Yeah.
person. I mean that just doesn't.
Well, no,
Mind
not
flaying,
necessarily.
you know?
Brandon, if you had seen Rebels, I know
I've
you
heard of it. I've seen
haven't,
like 4 or 5
but there are
episodes.
rebellion scientists, like the guy that develops the B-wing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
How
right,
hard
that
could it
guy.
be?
Yeah, that's a great
a
episode. I
bunch
like
of
that one.
a bunch of incom engineers that go
I
to
guess
the rebellion to help with the X-wing
yeah, I was gonna
project.
say it could be fun to like chunk together some X-wings from like scraps and stuff.
Oh, you'd be the guy that invents the ugly. Brandon, you know what
No.
uglies are? So an
I don't know what this
ugly
is either.
Picture this. You got the ball cockpit from a TIE fighter, but it's got
Okay.
X-wings.
Hey.
Oh. Okay.
You've got the Y-wing fuselage, but it's got the TIE fighter wings on it.
That's wow.
So
okay.
uglies
That
are
is ugly.
scrapped. Uglies are scrapped together starships from different parts of wreckage.
That could be a lot of
basically.
fun.
Gotcha.
So like something like that, something creative,
there's-
something like on like either something like creative that like helps like a good cause, like the rebellion, or something that's like on the cutting edge of technology that's like used for good, like hyperspace lanes and things like that. You know,
Sure.
Fair.
Cool.
that'd be fun.
Okay. Last question from Reefton. Once and future friend of the show.
Current friend of the show.
Oh no, we got a couple more questions. I lied. From IT Nama, as someone who hasn't seen Visions, is it worth watching all 2 seasons, or should I just pick up the good ones? I didn't love all of season 1 of Visions, but I think I'm the outlier there. I say just watch all of it. Like, there's no rush to
like
do it.
15 minutes, 20 minutes, some of them are 10 minutes. So if you're just, maybe you want to pick out the ones that are the shortest to get through as many as you want. But I would say watch both, because I think I would say definitely watch season 2. I found season 2 way more enjoyable just due to the variety of the animation styles, and I felt like season 2 had more of a central theme running through it, whereas volume 1 was kind of, I mean, they're all different studios still over doing anime, but there's some that I liked a lot, and some I was like, oh, okay. Season 2, though, I was like, man, I love all of these. So
Okay.
to each their own, though. But I would say watch them both. Yeah.
Neither Brandon or I have finished Vision season 2. So
Yeah, I say watch them all and
You're
then
the
give
one
me
to-
the rundown of what happens.
yeah, let
There you go.
let Brandon and I know which episodes to watch. From Darth Kitty, which scene in a Star Wars movie, TV show, or video game would you improve by adding one line of dialogue from a Kevin Smith movie?
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to now read their example, because that is the only one. Now that I've heard this example, it's the only answer I can come up with. Mine would be to have Rick the door technician's final words being, "I'm not even supposed to be here today." Which, to be fair, Darth Kitty came up with that.
That's pretty
so
good.
I'm
Damn. That's good.
I'm not gonna take full credit for that, but that's my answer.
I wish I would have read this a little beforehand to find a Kevin Smith quote that I could recite for a character, because I just don't know Kevin Smith movies.
Can I do like a
that
paraphrase
well
instead of a quote, or I like swap out a couple words?
Yeah, it's better
Yeah,
than
what
I
if
got.
in Rise of Skywalker, when Rey wants the Wayfinder, she says, "Sith Wayfinder, little man, put that shit in my hand."
That's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good one. Maybe
Nice,
something
nice,
about
nice.
maybe something about a donkey show. From
Definitely
Clerks
something
2.
like about
All right,
the Death Star conversation in the first Clerks.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking too. I just
That's
need to
actually-
have
Like
gone
maybe
back and...
maybe
you know.
Maybe
There's
like
something
sneak that
there,
into
yeah,
like
you're
the
right.
opening crawl of like Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, like think of the, or just someone in the background yelling, "Think of the contractors."
Honestly, they should have. I would love to hear that. You know how Jedi Survivor, the Stormtrooper dialogue talk, which is done by David Collins, by the way. I would love to have like as an Easter egg if that conversation was
Clerks,
happening.
yeah.
Oh,
That'd be good.
that'd be so cool. That'd be so cool.
That'd be good. To wrap up, Reefton, I thought this was a fitting end. If you were to be an extra in a Star Wars movie, which one and what scene? So, real quick, there's no way that I would be a good extra, right? I would have to be the stormtrooper that bumps his head, or someone who's not supposed to be in the shot, like pink shorts guy, right? Like,
oh yeah.
like I'm not
Mando?
supposed to be in the shot. I just am. Yeah.
Ooh, what extra would I be? That's a good. I like this question a lot actually because I want to come up with a good answer. Oh man, if you're to be an extra in a Star Wars movie, which one and what scene, Brandon? Yeah, what do you got?
All right.
Brandon?
Well,
I'm
first
gonna
of all, I
toss
do
it to
have
you
one
when I
more
finish.
from the previous question. When in again Rise of Skywalker, when instead of Rey saying "I'm all the Jedi," she just goes "Snoochie Boochies" and then brings the lightsabers together to defeat Palpatine.
I like that. That's good.
But
That's
I think I would. Is it too like selfish to say I want to be a Jedi or a pod racer maybe in like Phantom Menace, one of the pod racers. That and
Very
I get like
fast,
my own like
very dangerous.
Death Steam, like that one guy I forget his name that goes like "Wow," and then blows up.
Oh, the Alina. His name is Rats
Yes,
Tyrell.
Rats Tyrell. If I could do like a Rats
Ah.
Tyrell thing, but I think I don't want to be like a human, so like a show my face.
There's only one human that pod races.
That's true, but I could be like human-esque, like give me some horns or something.
Like
He's
near-
a person.
near human.
Yeah,
And his name
like
is
be like
Anakin.
he looks close enough. like in Star Trek where they have people who are just green for some reason. Make me like a green version of myself.
Sure.
Yeah.
I get my answer. This guy isn't really an extra per se, but I want to be that Tusken Raider that's just taking pot shots at the pod race, at the pod racers. I'm just like that. That would be me. I would, you know. There you go.
Episode 8 doesn't have a fat X-wing pilot. I want to be the fat X-wing pilot in episode 8.
Wow, West.
There's
2.
always one, right?
Right?
No, not
Who's in
really.
Return
It's just
of the I was gonna say
no,
who's in
it's
Return of the Jedi? I don't
yeah,
think
it's
they-
just snapping.
Yeah, or I'd want to be like a Jedi in the prequels, just walking around the Jedi Temple, or like in like the Colosseum on Geonosis.
Or yeah, one of the randos that dies in the
Yeah,
Colosseum.
just like give me a
that does like that does a kick in the background.
yeah, like
just,
and like
but
and
not
give me
kicking
a
anyone.
lightsaber that I
Yeah.
can like bring home after like the shooting is done. Like, you could take it. I'd be like, oh my god.
Yeah.
yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for this week here on Scoundrels Inc. Thanks to everyone who tuned in and hit that like button, and everyone who hit subscribe. Appreciate it. Leave a comment on what we talked about here today, the Ahsoka stuff. What do you think about Kathleen Kennedy's comments about what the Rey film will explore? Does that galaxy, the Star Wars galaxy, want the Jedi back? Do they need them back? I think it's a very interesting question. So leave your comments in the comment section below, and we will see y'all in the next one.
Houdini.
Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.